The massive screen on the bridge of the EDF Stellar Guard lit up with an unusual pattern of lights. Captain Reed stood from his command chair, his eyes fixed on the dancing colors that definitely weren't stars. After 15 years of deep space patrol, he knew what normal space phenomena looked like. This wasn't one of them. "Analysis?" he asked, his voice calm despite his racing heart. "Sir, it's a ship," replied Officer Wilson from her station. "But it's like nothing we've ever seen before. The energy readings are off the charts, and it's just sitting there, about 500,000 kilometers from us." Reed scratched his beard, a habit he picked up during long space flights. "Any signs of hostile intent?" "No weapons signatures detected, sir, but they're broadcasting something." The strange lights continued to pulse across the screen, forming complex patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. Reed was about to order a defensive stance when Wilson's console started beeping urgently. "Captain, they're sending a message. It's in English." That got everyone's attention. First contact scenarios had been drilled into their heads during training, but nobody expected aliens to start chatting in English right off the bat. Reed nodded at Wilson. "Let's hear it." A calm, almost melodic voice filled the bridge. "Greetings, Earth vessel. We are the observers. We come with great concern about your species' continued existence." Reed exchanged glances with his crew. That wasn't the typical take-me-to-your-leader scenario they'd practiced. "This is Captain Reed of the Earth Defense Force vessel Stellar Guard. What exactly concerns you about our species?" There was a pause then. "Your behavior patterns are deeply troubling. We have been studying your civilization for some time, and we must discuss your species' apparent death wish." A small chuckle escaped from someone on the bridge, quickly stifled. Reed maintained his professional demeanor. "I assure you, we don't have a death wish. Perhaps we could meet and discuss these concerns in person." "You say you don't have a death wish," the voice continued, "yet we have observed humans willingly jumping off high places with nothing but fabric to slow their fall. We have seen you deliberately enter water containing dangerous predators. You intentionally climb frozen water formations that could collapse at any moment. These are just a few examples of your species' concerning behaviors." Reed realized they were talking about skydiving, scuba diving, and ice climbing. He couldn't help but smile. Those are recreational activities. They're carefully controlled and you find enjoyment in risking death. The alien voice actually managed to sound scandalized. "This proves our point. We request a formal meeting with your planetary leadership. The safety of the galaxy may depend on it." The massive alien ship suddenly shimmered, its surface rippling like water, before a smaller vessel emerged from its side. The new ship was about the size of a small shuttle, its surface covered in the same shifting patterns of light they'd seen on the screen. "We will send representatives to your United Nations facility in 20 Earth hours. Please ensure your leaders are present. We must discuss humanity's troubling tendencies." As the small ship began moving toward Earth, Reed turned to his crew. They all wore expressions ranging from amusement to confusion. "Well," he said, "I guess we better warn the UN that they're about to host a meeting about humanity's hobbies." "Sir," Wilson said, trying to keep a straight face, "should we mention the hot sauce eating contests?" "Let's not give them any more reasons to think we're crazy," Reed replied, already drafting his report in his head. "Though I have a feeling they're going to find out about a lot more things they consider insane before this is over." The crew worked quickly to relay the message to Earth Command, while the alien shuttle continued its approach. Reed watched it on the screen, wondering how he was going to explain to these aliens that what they saw as insanity was just humans being humans. He had a feeling this was going to be an interesting first contact situation. As he prepared to follow the alien shuttle back to Earth, Reed couldn't help but think about all the other insane things humans did for fun. Rock climbing, martial arts, roller coasters, eating extremely spicy food. Maybe the aliens had a point, but then again, wasn't pushing boundaries and seeking thrills part of what made humans who they were? One thing was certain. The upcoming UN meeting was going to be very entertaining. The United Nations Assembly Hall buzzed with nervous energy as world leaders filled the seats. Captain Reed stood near the podium, watching the alien representatives called the observers prepare their presentation. Their tall, silvery forms moved with careful precision, as if every step had been calculated to use the minimum necessary energy. Blue Dawn, their lead diplomat, stepped up to the podium. The alien's smooth, metallic skin reflected the room's lights in gentle waves. "We have prepared a comprehensive report on human behavior that deeply concerns us," it announced, its voice carrying easily through the hall. The massive screen behind Blue Dawn lit up with images from Earth. "Exhibit A," the alien said, pointing to a video of someone bungee jumping off a bridge. "Your species deliberately ties elastic cords to your bodies and jumps from high places. For entertainment." Murmurs and a few poorly hidden chuckles rippled through the audience. Blue Dawn's head tilted slightly, a gesture Reed was starting to recognize as confusion. "Exhibit B." The screen changed to show people eating at a hot wings restaurant. "You intentionally breed plants to be painful to consume, then compete to see who can endure the most pain while eating them." The alien's voice rose slightly. "You even sign liability forms acknowledging that this activity might harm you. And you do this for fun." One of the world leaders, Reed couldn't tell who, whispered loudly, "Wait until they hear about ghost peppers." Blue Dawn continued, each example becoming more animated. "You jump out of perfectly functional aircraft. You climb frozen waterfalls. You chase dangerous storms in vehicles. You willingly enter caves that might collapse. You dive into deep ocean waters without gills. You strap boards to your feet and slide down snow-covered mountains." The alien paused, its metallic skin rippling with what seemed like distress. "And perhaps most concerningly, you keep dangerous predators in your homes and call them pets." At this point, several people in the audience pulled out their phones to show pictures of their cats and dogs, much to the visible horror of the observer delegation. Furthermore, Blue Dawn continued, its voice now carrying a note of desperation. "You expose yourselves to dangerous solar radiation for the purpose of changing your skin color. You consume fermented beverages that impair your cognitive functions. You intentionally fight each other in designated areas for sport. You." The alien stopped, noticing that many humans were now trying very hard not to laugh. "This is not amusing. We are part of a larger galactic community, and your species' apparent addiction to unnecessary risk-taking presents a serious concern for cosmic stability." Reed stepped forward, clearing his throat. "If I may, Blue Dawn, what you see as unnecessary risks, we see as challenges to overcome. These activities help us grow, learn, and push our boundaries. They're not signs of insanity. They're expressions of human spirit." Spirit. Another observer stepped forward, introducing himself as Clear Sky. "Is that what you call this collective death wish?" "It's not a death wish," Reed explained patiently. "Look at how we perform these activities. We have safety equipment, training, regulations. We calculate the risks and take precautions. Yes, we push boundaries, but we do it smartly." Blue Dawn's skin rippled again. "You call jumping from a spacecraft with only a fabric parachute smart." "We call it courage," Reed replied. "The same courage that let us reach the stars, that drives us to explore and innovate. Without that willingness to take calculated risks, we'd still be living in caves." The observers huddled together, their metallic forms creating a shimmering circle as they discussed among themselves. Finally, Blue Dawn returned to the podium. "We propose a series of tests," the alien announced, "to determine if your species can balance this courage with rational behavior. The results will determine if Earth is ready to join the galactic community." Reed looked at the assembled world leaders, who nodded their agreement. "We accept your challenge," he said, "though I suspect you might learn as much from us as we will from you." As the meeting concluded, Reed couldn't help but notice one of the younger observers watching a replay of the bungee jumping video, with what seemed like fascination rather than horror. Maybe there was hope for understanding after all. Captain Reed and Dr. Thompson stood in the massive docking bay of the Observer mothership, staring at what looked like a giant obstacle course floating in zero gravity. Blue dawn and clear sky approached them, their metallic forms gleaming under the ship's bright lights. "This is your first test," Blue Dawn announced. "A simple exercise in rational decision-making during crisis situations." Thompson raised an eyebrow. "Simple, huh?" She watched as parts of the obstacle course sparked with energy and others spun in seemingly random patterns. With her background in physics, she could already tell this was anything but simple. "You must reach the other side," Clear Sky explained, pointing to a glowing platform about 100 meters away. "However, you must follow our carefully calculated safe path. Any deviation will result in immediate failure." Reed looked at the course again. "And this safe path of yours, how long did it take to calculate it?" "Approximately 47 Earth hours," Blue Dawn replied with what seemed like pride. "We have considered every variable and determined the mathematically perfect route." Thompson and Reed exchanged glances. They'd both noticed something the observers had apparently missed, a pattern in the spinning obstacles that created brief but predictable gaffes. "You have 30 Earth minutes to study the course," Clear Sky continued. "Then you must demonstrate your ability to follow logical." "We'll go now," Reed interrupted. The observer's metallic skin rippled in what had become their signature sign of distress. "Now, without studying the calculated route, this is exactly the kind of reckless behavior we're concerned about." But Reed and Thompson were already moving. They pushed off from the starting platform, using their zero-gravity training to navigate through the course. Rather than following any predetermined path, they moved in short, controlled bursts, timing their movements with the spinning obstacles. "They're going to get themselves killed," Clear Sky said, his voice modulating with worry. Thompson grabbed a spinning bar, using its momentum to slingshot herself through a gap that appeared for just a second. Reed followed, having anticipated the same opening. They moved like dancers in space, reading the patterns of the obstacle course as if it were a living thing rather than a mathematical problem. The watching observers grew more agitated with each seemingly reckless move, but their concern turned to confusion as Reed and Thompson continued to make progress, moving faster than their calculated safe route would have allowed. "This is impossible," Blue Dawn declared. "They cannot be succeeding without following the proper calculations." Reed caught up with Thompson near the final section. Here, energy barriers flickered in complex patterns, creating what looked like an impassable wall. The observer's safe route would have required waiting for a specific sequence of flickers that occurred every 15 minutes. Thompson grinned at Reed. "Want to show them another human trick?" Together, they pushed off toward the barriers. Instead of trying to go through them, they used their momentum to slide along the outside edge of the energy field. The friction created a static charge that actually helped them cling to the barrier surface, letting them effectively climb around the obstacle rather than wait for it to open. They landed on the final platform just 3 minutes after starting. The observers stood in stunned silence. "How?" Clear Sky finally managed to ask. "How did you know that would work?" "We didn't," Thompson admitted, "but we saw the possibility, and we were pretty sure we could recover if we were wrong." "Pretty sure." Blue Dawn's voice rose an octave. "You risked your lives on pretty sure." Reed shrugged. "That's kind of our specialty. Humans are good at seeing patterns, adapting to situations, and yes, taking calculated risks when we need to. But our calculations," Clear Sky began, "were perfect for a perfect situation." Thompson interrupted. "But life isn't perfect. Sometimes you need to improvise." As they floated back to the starting platform, Reed noticed several younger observers studying recordings of their run, their metallic skin shimmering with what looked surprisingly like excitement. "Ready for the next test?" Reed asked the still shocked Blue Dawn. The alien's response was almost lost in the sound of excited chatter from the young observers. I'm not sure we're ready for anything humans do anymore. The Observer space station's emergency alarm blared through the corridors. Its sound oddly musical compared to harsh human warning systems. Reed and Thompson ran behind Blue Dawn, heading toward the station's control room. What had started as their second test had turned into a real emergency. "We've lost power to the station's gravity rings," Blue Dawn explained, its metallic skin flickering with stress patterns. "The backup systems are failing. We have 300 crew members in the outer sections who will be exposed to zero gravity with no warning." "That doesn't sound so bad," Thompson said, already thinking through the problem. "We train for zero situations all the time. Our species cannot handle sudden gravity changes." Clear Sky's voice carried genuine fear. "The physiological shock could kill them. We need at least 6 hours to safely transition from artificial gravity to zero." They reached the control room, where dozens of observers worked frantically at their stations. The main screen showed a diagram of the massive station, with red warning indicators spreading across the outer rings. "The emergency protocols require 17 steps to safely power down the gravity systems," Blue Dawn explained. "But the power core is destabilizing too quickly. We don't have time to follow proper procedures." Reed watched the power readings dropping. "How long until total failure?" 23 minutes. Thompson was already at one of the engineering stations, her fingers flying over the alien controls she'd only learned to use days ago. "The main power conduits run through the central hub, right? And then branch out to the rings." "Correct," Clear Sky confirmed. "But what if we reverse it?" Reed interrupted, seeing where Thompson was going with this. "Use the failing systems to our advantage." Thompson nodded excitedly. "We can create a controlled power surge through the secondary systems. It would create a ripple effect of localized gravity fields. That would be incredibly dangerous." Blue Dawn's skin was now pulsing with patterns that probably meant something like, "These humans are crazy." The power fluctuations could tear the station apart. Or, Thompson countered, they could create a wave of gradually decreasing gravity that would give everyone time to adjust. Like riding an ocean wave, but with gravity. A young observer named Quick Spark stepped forward. "She's right. If we timed the power surges correctly, we could create a cascading effect. It would give our people about 30 seconds of adjustment time instead of 6 hours. But it's better than 0 seconds," Reed finished. "How long to set it up?" "If we bypass the safety protocols," Quick Spark began. "Which would be completely against all regulations," Clear Sky interjected. "We can do it in 10 minutes," Quick Spark finished, ignoring the older observer. Blue Dawn looked at the power readings, then at the 300 life signs in the outer rings. Its skin rippled through several colors before settling. "Do it." The next 10 minutes were a blur of activity. Thompson and Quick Spark worked on the power systems while Reed coordinated with the station's security teams to prepare for the gravity wave. Other young observers joined in, their enthusiasm for this crazy human plan growing by the minute. "Ready," Thompson announced. "Initiating power surge in 3, 2, 1. The station groaned as the modified power surge began. On the main screen, they watched as a wave of energy moved through the outer rings. Warning alarms screamed about power fluctuations and structural stress, but the station held together. "It's working," Quick Spark announced, his metallic skin glowing with excitement. "The gravity decrease is following the predicted pattern." Reports started coming in from the outer rings. The observers there were experiencing discomfort, but they were alive and adapting to the gradual loss of gravity. What could have been a disaster had turned into an unorthodox success. As the situation stabilized, Blue Dawn turned to Reed and Thompson. "You deliberately ignored safety protocols, bypassed multiple fail-safes, and risked a catastrophic station failure." There was a pause. "And you saved 300 lives by doing so." "Sometimes the safest option isn't the best option," Reed said with a shrug. "Humans learned that lesson a long time ago." Quick Spark and several other young observers were already gathering around Thompson, asking excited questions about how she'd thought of the gravity wave idea. Their older colleagues watched with a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration. Perhaps, Blue Dawn said quietly, there is something to be learned from human insanity after all. The mood in the observer ship's observation deck was tense. Through the massive viewing window, they could see the star HD 47,821 pulsing with dangerous energy. What had started as a routine stellar observation had quickly turned into a potential catastrophe. The star's core is destabilizing much faster than our models predicted, Clear Sky reported, his metallic skin displaying patterns of deep distress. We have 28 inhabited worlds in this sector that need to be evacuated. Reed watched the star's surface churning with massive solar flares. How long until it goes supernova? Based on our calculations, approximately 48 hours, Blue Dawn replied. But evacuating all 28 worlds through approved evacuation protocols would take at least 72 hours. Quick Spark, who had been working closely with Thompson since the space station incident, spoke up. The human approach would be to try something unexpected, wouldn't it? The older observer's skin rippled with concern, but Thompson was already pulling up star system data on the main display. Look at the position of these worlds relative to each other. If we use the star's increasing gravity to our advantage, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Reed asked, a smile forming on his face. Gravity assists, Thompson confirmed. But on a massive scale, we can use the dying star's gravitational pull to speed up our rescue ships. It's risky, but absolutely not. Clear Sky interrupted. Getting closer to an unstable star. That's beyond insane, even for humans. But Quick Spark and several other young observers were already running calculations. If we time it right, we could use the star's gravity to accelerate our ships to speeds we've never achieved before. We could cut the evacuation time in half. Blue Dawn watched the star pulse again. The risk calculations will take too long, Reed cut in. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts. How many ships do we have available? Despite the older observers' protests, they began implementing the plan. The observer fleet, joined by several human vessels that had been nearby, started positioning themselves for what Thompson called the biggest gravity slingshot in history. Quick Spark worked with a team of young observers, their excitement visible in their shimmering skin patterns as they plotted the complex trajectories. They had to time everything perfectly. Too close to the star, and the ships would be destroyed. Too far, and they wouldn't get the speed boost they needed. First wave ready, Thompson announced. Launching in 3, 2, 1. The ships dove toward the dying star, their hulls straining against the intense gravitational forces. At the last possible moment, they curved away, using the star's pull to fling themselves toward the first group of planets at unprecedented speeds. It's working. Quick Spark's skin was glowing brighter than ever. They're achieving 120% of calculated maximum velocity. The evacuation became a dance of precision and controlled chaos. Ships would swing past the star, picking up enormous speed, then race to the outer planets to gather evacuees. The younger observers began adapting the technique, suggesting modifications that even Thompson hadn't considered. We could use the solar flares, one young observer named Light Seeker suggested. Time our approaches to ride the plasma ejections for extra speed. Reed watched in amazement as the observer ships, traditionally known for their cautious and measured approach to spaceflight, began performing maneuvers that would make even veteran human pilots nervous. The hours ticked by, but the evacuation progressed far faster than anyone had thought possible. The combination of human improvisation and observer technology was proving to be remarkably effective. As the last ship full of evacuees cleared the danger zone, the star gave a final violent pulse. The observation deck was filled with the light of the beginning supernova, but by then, everyone was safely out of range. Blue Dawn turned to Reed and Thompson. You taught our young ones to be reckless. We taught them to be adaptive, Thompson corrected, to see opportunities where others see only danger. Quick Spark joined them, still radiating excitement. We saved everyone. And we discovered new spaceflight techniques in the process. Isn't that worth a little risk? The older observer's skin rippled with what might have been resignation. Perhaps what we saw as insanity in humans is actually evolution trying to tell us something. The grand meeting hall of the observer mothership had never seen anything like this before. On one side stood the traditional observer council, their metallic skin displaying patterns of deep concern. On the other side stood Quick Spark and a group of young observers, accompanied by Reeve and Thompson. This is unacceptable, First Light, the head of the council, declared. Our young ones are beginning to act like humans. Quick Spark stepped forward, his skin shimmering with determination. Is that such a bad thing? Look at what we've accomplished in the past few weeks. The space station rescue, the evacuation of 28 worlds, all because we dared to think differently. You mean think recklessly, Clear Sky corrected. Yesterday, a group of young ones tried to modify their environmental suits to experience what they called space surfing. Thompson tried to hide a smile. She might have had something to do with that particular idea. And this morning, Blue Dawn added, we caught several junior engineers attempting to create what they called an artificial gravity skateboard park in Cargo Bay 3. Which would have worked, Lightseeker muttered from the group of young observers. Reed stepped forward. If I may speak. The council members rippled their reluctant agreement. What you're seeing isn't recklessness. It's evolution. Your young ones are discovering something humans learned long ago. That progress often requires pushing boundaries. They're even starting to talk like humans. First Light said, sounding horrified. We're not just talking like them, Quick Spark declared. We're learning from them. Did you know that human space programs had something called controlled failures? They deliberately tested things until they broke to understand their limits. We always assumed that was insanity, but look at the results. The young observer activated a holographic display, showing various human achievements throughout history. They reached their moon with computers less powerful than our maintenance robots. They built space stations piece by piece, making repairs with nothing but simple tools and creativity. They turned their greatest rivals into space partners. And now they're corrupting our youth with these ideas, Clear Sky said. No, Light Seekers spoke up. They're showing us that there's more than one way to approach problems. Remember the supernova evacuation? We combined human intuition with observer precision. The result wasn't chaos, it was innovation. The council members conferred among themselves, their skin patterns shifting rapidly in what appeared to be heated debate. Meanwhile, more young observers were filling the hall, drawn by the commotion. Finally, First Light addressed the gathering. You propose that we should abandon thousands of years of careful, methodical progress in favor of human-style improvisation. We propose balance, Quick Spark corrected. Keep our precision, our calculations, our safety protocols, but add human creativity, their willingness to try new things, what's the word you used, Captain Reed? Gut instinct, Reed supplied. Yes, their gut instinct. Think about it, humans and observers, precision and intuition, calculation and creativity. We could achieve things neither of our species could do alone. Thompson noticed something interesting happening among the council members. Their skin patterns were starting to show hints of colors she'd never seen before, perhaps indicating new thoughts, new possibilities they'd never considered. Blue Dawn, who had spent the most time with humans, spoke up. Perhaps what we initially saw as insanity in humans is actually a form of wisdom we hadn't recognized. Their willingness to take calculated risks, to try new approaches, to occasionally defy conventional wisdom. These might be exactly what our civilization needs. The young observer's skin lit up with excitement, creating a dazzling display of shifting colors. Even some of the older council members were showing patterns of cautious interest. We need to put this to a proper vote, First Light announced. But perhaps it's time for the observer civilization to try something a little bit insane. Quick Spark turned to Reed and Thompson, his skin glowing with what they now recognized as joy. We're going to need a lot more human instructors, he said. There's an entire generation of observers ready to learn how to be safely insane. 1 year after the historic meeting that changed observer society, Captain Reed stood before the Galactic Council. The massive chamber held representatives from 100 different species, all gathered to witness humanity's formal application to join the galactic community. Blue Dawn stood beside him, while Thompson sat with Quick Spark and a group of young observers in the audience. Esteemed council members, Blue Dawn began, its metallic skin showing patterns of confidence that would have been unthinkable a year ago. We came to Earth believing we had found a species too unstable and reckless to join our community. We were wrong. The chamber's holographic displays activated, showing scenes from the past year. Observer ships performing complex maneuvers that combined their precise calculations with human-inspired improvisation. Young observers working alongside human teachers, learning to balance caution with creativity. Look at what we've accomplished together, Blue Dawn continued. Our deep space exploration efficiency has increased by 300%. Our emergency response capabilities have doubled. We've even started an exchange program that has young observers learning Earth sports, with proper safety protocols, of course. A murmur of surprise rippled through the council chamber when they showed footage of observers playing basketball in low gravity, their metallic forms gleaming as they twisted and jumped in ways their species had never attempted before. But most importantly, Reed added, stepping forward, we've learned from each other. Humans have learned the value of more careful planning, while observers have discovered the benefits of controlled risk-taking. Quick Spark suddenly stood up. If I may demonstrate. Without waiting for permission, he activated his personal gravity controls and performed a perfect backflip in the middle of the council chamber, something that would have been considered shocking behavior for an observer just a year ago. You see, First Light spoke up from his council seat, his skin showing amusement rather than the horror such a display would have caused before. They've taught us that sometimes breaking protocol can lead to progress. Thompson joined Reed at the podium. We don't suggest that everyone should start acting like humans, she said. But we've proven that different approaches to problem-solving can work together. What you once saw as insanity was just a different kind of wisdom. The council members discussed among themselves their various forms, some energy-based, some crystalline, some completely alien to human understanding, all showing signs of intense deliberation. Finally, the council leader, a being of pure light, spoke. We have reviewed the evidence. 1 year ago, the observers came to us with grave concerns about human behavior. Now they are some of humanity's strongest advocates. This is unprecedented. Humans have a saying, Reed offered. The only difference between insanity and genius is success. That got a laugh from the young observers in the audience, who had become fond of human sayings. Even some council members showed signs of amusement. Very well, the council leader announced. Earth is hereby accepted into the galactic community. Furthermore, we are establishing a new division, the Human Observer Innovation Corps, dedicated to finding creative solutions to galactic problems. The chamber erupted in celebration. Quick Spark and his friends performed synchronized gravity flips, while their older mentors watched with what looked like prideful embarrassment. As the celebration continued, Blue Dawn turned to Reed. You know, we still think humans are absolutely insane. Of course we are, Reed agreed with a smile. But now you understand that a little insanity isn't always a bad thing. Indeed. Blue Dawn's skin rippled with colors of joy and anticipation. In fact, I've been meaning to ask. I heard about this human activity called skydiving. Reed laughed and patted his alien friend on the shoulder. Don't worry. We'll start you with indoor skydiving first. Baby steps, remember. Baby steps, Blue Dawn agreed. Though I must point out that letting infant humans practice walking despite knowing they will fall repeatedly is yet another example of your species' questionable judgment. As they left the council chamber, Reed couldn't help but smile at how far they'd come. What had started as a concerned intervention about humanity's death wish had turned into something remarkable. A partnership that proved that sometimes the craziest thing you can do is stick only to the safe options. And somewhere on Earth, a group of young observers were probably planning their first bungee jumping expedition, with carefully calculated elastic coefficients, of course.